So this session, the first session of Women in HVAC Roundtable on Education, is being recorded, and it will be available for members to view. So if you're not a member, please visit our website and sign up. Let's see, what else do I want to say? We're going to have opportunities for you to ask questions because we only have 16 people, I think, here. 17. Okay. It'll be a little bit easier, so people will just be able to unmute and ask a question. The first thing I want to say is a little bit about myself. I'm a licensed gas technician, and I've been working 20 years in the HVAC industry as with HiMark, and HiMark's been around for 30 years, and it's a family-owned operation. We're a registered private career college. We're also a training provider for TSSA, the Technical Standards and Safety Authority. And we do about 40% of the training for gas technicians in Ontario. So we have a lot of experience behind us. I have with me tonight Sam Adams, who is the owner of HiMark. He's going to speak on apprenticeships because he's very knowledgeable on that, way more than I am. He's served an apprenticeship, and he knows all the ins and outs on how to get into one and how to get out of one. He's basically been in HVAC his entire life. He's a gas technician, a sheet metal worker. He's served an apprenticeship, and he started HiMark as the first private school to teach gas. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to share my screen with you, is what HVAC actually is. So HVAC is an industry. It's not a license. A lot of people say HVAC technician, but really it can mean they can have any one of any number of licenses. And a lot of people actually have more than one. The H in HVAC is heating, which is a gas technician or oil burner technician license, which is issued by TSSA. So it's a completely separate license than the other licenses in the fact that it's not an apprenticeship. You have to start with your G3, then you get your G2, and then some people go on to their G1. The G3 allows you to work under supervision. The G2 allows you to work without supervision on anything that fires up to 400,000 BTUs, and that is residential and commercial. And then the G1 allows you to work on any size gas-fired equipment, which is like shopping malls and auto plants, condominiums and schools and things like that. The V in HVAC is ventilation, which is a sheet metal worker, and that is either a 308A or a 308R. The 308R is a 3-year apprenticeship, and the 308A is a 5-year apprenticeship. That is through Skilled Trades Ontario. The AC is air conditioning refrigeration. Oh, I should stop and say that what I'm talking about is Ontario. This is not across Canada. It's a different system across Canada, as Jess was mentioning. So if you want to know about that, we can touch on that later. But in Ontario, you've got 2 different levels of licensing for air conditioning refrigeration. There's the 313D, which is residential, and the 313A, which encompasses everything. That again is a 3-year apprenticeship for the 313D and a 5-year apprenticeship for the 313A. The other trades associated with HVAC is a plumber. There's only one plumbing license, which is the 306A that you would use in HVAC. And then there's the electrician, and there's the 309A and the 309C, again, a 3-year or a 5-year apprenticeship. And the difference between the two with the 3 or the 5 is usually the 3 is residential, or what they call domestic and rural, And a 5-year apprenticeship is an all-encompassing for any size equipment. So with the gas technician, again, it's not an apprenticeship. You can end up being fully licensed in 6 months. You can work on furnaces, water heaters, fireplaces, pool heaters, gas meters, gas barbecue, stoves, dryers, refrigerators, and generators. As a licensed gas technician too, you can expect to earn about $28 to $30 an hour. Okay, but you can earn much more than that. A lot of people, when they're getting into HVAC, they go for the gas license. And the reason behind that is because you at least got one license under your belt. Any of the other licenses are an apprenticeship, and you can only serve one apprenticeship at a time. So, you know, you get your gas license and then you start working and you figure out where you want to go and which apprenticeship you might want to do. Getting your gas license makes you way more employable as well. With an apprenticeship, you must find an employer to hire you, and they're going to look at you faster in HVAC if you have a gas license to begin with. So that's why, you know, a lot of people say it's a stepping stone to the other apprenticeships. Okay. So let me stop sharing that. If I'm going to quickly, let me know. All right. So now, the other licenses are issued by Skilled Trades Ontario. And if you go on their website, let me see if I can get that up. No, 1 second. I have to open that screen. There we go. All right, you'll have to bear with me, everybody. Okay, so this is the website. If you go to Skilled Trades Ontario, which is just skilledtradesontario.ca, you can find out all the information about the trades, apprenticeship, how to start an apprenticeship, how to finish an apprenticeship, financial support. One of the things that they have here as well when you go to start an apprenticeship is they talk about, where is it? They talk about pre-apprenticeship training. Okay. A lot of people talk about pre-apprenticeship training, and you'll go to all these different trade shows and the colleges and everything else, and they talk about pre-apprenticeship training. Well, pre-apprenticeship training is something that is basically giving you an opportunity to try out the trades. It is something that is not going to get you a license, is not going to get you an apprenticeship, but it gives you an opportunity if, you know, if this, you feel, you don't feel comfortable working with tools and you feel like you want a bit of a head up, legs up on a trade, then you can definitely try one of these out. There's 2 different ways of going through it. The Ministry of Labor actually puts on free pre-apprenticeship training. It includes, if you see here, it includes the cost of textbooks, safety equipment, and tools. Now, there's also community colleges and other private colleges that offer pre-apprenticeship training, but they charge for it, and they charge $15,000, something like that. You'd have to look it up. So you can either get it free through the Ministry of Labor, or you can pay a career college or a community college for one of their courses. The thing about it is, though, that you are in school for up to 52 weeks. So you'll be in school up to a year. Personally, for me, I think it would be better to try to get a job and then get signed up as an apprentice, because I don't know, you know, what an employer would be looking for, if they would find value in this or not. Now, the people who did run the free apprenticeships last year, hold on a second here. Let me see if I can get this up. All right. All right, so here is a list of the organizations and that were funded by the Ministry of Labor to give the free apprenticeship training. Now, you can see here's the organization name, the area that they were in, and over here you can see the primary trade. So there's different things that they were looking at in secondary trade. This first one is architectural glass and metal technician. And then the secondary trade is painter and decorator. Hold on a second here. Sorry, I lost it. One second. I've done something. Enrique, can you please come and help me? I've lost my screen. I'm getting some technical support, guys. So I'm sharing the screen. This one, share, but I don't have it. So somehow or other, I've made this part bigger. I've made that.
What is this window? What's the window? Which window is it?
This one here.
What window are you sharing right now?
This one maybe.
No.
That one,
Where is
yeah.
this?
It's
From?
yeah. It's there. It's being shared. You guys can see my screen, right? The layout of the pre-apprenticeship.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll just keep talking
That's
and then I'll
fine.
go back to
I
it.
think
So
it's fine.
So what we've got is if you look over to the client group, it shows who was eligible to get this training. So this training is free. You sign up with the organization. If you fit into the client group, you pay no money. It's all covered. But they don't cover your living expenses. So if you're going to be in school for a year, then you are going to be you're going to have to get some funding to cover you for your living expenses unless you have somebody who can pay your way through. If you look here, you've got Georgian College. They're doing electrician construction and maintenance, but that is open, and that's open to anybody, and it's a 34-week program. So that's an option for some people if they want to go that way. Let me just see here. So I've gone through quite a few things. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've just said? Like, are any of you signed up as apprentices right now? Are you thinking about going that route? So Katie, you're signed up as an apprentice. You're refrigeration, right?
I am, yeah.
You're with 787?
No, I'm not with a union.
No?
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Just signed up with a company, with a HVAC company. I actually just transferred from 313D to 313A, which was a bit of a confusing process, but we got there in the end.
Oh, that's fantastic. So are you also a licensed gas technician?
I am, G2.
Fantastic. Your name is familiar. Did you take your course with us?
No, I do quite a bit with like women in HVAC, and I've been to HiMark a couple of times to speak to the Redwood ladies when they're there.
Yes, that's how
Yeah.
I recognize you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's good. And how are you finding the apprenticeship? Like you had no problems getting signed up, finding an employer?
No, I didn't have any troubles there. I was quite lucky. Um, One thing I was disappointed with the 313D was there's a common core where you're all mixed in together for the first level of schooling.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt as a residential tech, if I was going to stay in the 313D and just stay residential, I don't feel like that Common Core helped me at all for my job. I feel like it was a waste of time.
Oh, really?
That's my only feedback so far on the apprenticeship.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's been a positive experience. It's been fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've went through, what HVAC is, all the different licenses associated.
Mom, sorry to interrupt. Did you see that there's a question in chat?
No, I did not. Thank you. Where is it? Do I have to be a Canadian citizen to apply for any of the free pre-apprenticeship programs? I'm not 100% sure. You would have to,
No, you don't have to be a Canadian citizen.
you don't have to be a Canadian citizen.
No, I think as long as you're a landed immigrant and you have your work permits.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wasn't a Canadian citizen until about 10 years ago. And I've lived here all my life.
Wow. Okay. So that's good news. I think that, in a lot of cases, unless they're directly it is the Ministry of Labor, so I'm not sure what exactly they would be looking for. But a lot of times with schools, unless they're dealing with international students, they really don't ask for your status. It's more important what your income is, and what you're doing. They're not going to ask if you have citizenship. If you have a social insurance number, they might ask for that. And even if somebody asks you for your social insurance number, you do not have to give it to them. So I think it would be a hard thing for them to ask you to prove that you're a Canadian, to take a program, to be honest with you.
As long as you're legally, like if you're legal to work in Canada, so permanent resident or work visa, you don't have to be Canadian. Right, Katie? Katie, I don't know if are you Canadian?
I am. Long story, but I am.
Okay, but yeah.
Prove it.
There's many of us that come to Canada and don't bother becoming Canadian.
Well, you know what? It's what works for you to be
Yeah.
here or not to be here, right? So, yeah. So it's an individual situation. But I think with your education, I think that you can pretty much do anything that you want as long as you're able to be in the country and they're not going to deport you tomorrow. So yeah, so if no one else has any more questions, I think we can move on to Sam, who is going to explain the apprenticeship process better than I can. So take it away, Sam.
Thanks very much, Deb. Hi, everybody. As Deb's already said, I'm Sam, and I am a licensed sheet metal worker. So you guys want to be tradesmen? Yes? No? Well,
Tradeswomen.
Yes.
it's everything you've ever dreamed of being. You get to work in a great environment, especially as an HVAC technician. When it's cold outside, where do you think we are? We're outside up on a roof, probably in minus 20-degree weather. It's great. When it's warm outside, where do you think we are? We're outside in the sweating heat, We're always in the opposite of where you want to be. So get ready for that. Now, there's a couple of different trades Deb was mentioning. There's the air conditioning refrigeration, which is one license. There's the sheet metal, which is another license, and the plumber. Those are the three main trades associated with HVAC. Now, the only real one out of all of them is a sheet metal worker. Right, Jess? So there's one thing I like to do, and that is get a little controversy going, because you have to love your trade that you're in, right? If you're a refrigeration mechanic, then a refrigeration mechanic is the only real trade. If you're a sheet metal worker, then a sheet metal worker is the only real trade, right? Once you get into it, you're going to learn to love it. The problem is getting into it. That's the hardest thing about getting into an apprenticeship, is getting a company to register you as an apprentice. That's step number one. You've got to make yourself saleable to a company. You got to go to them and say, I want to be an apprentice. And just going there and saying, I want to be an apprentice isn't necessarily good enough. In Ontario, it's a little different than the other provinces. Here, you can get a gas license first, get your G2, and then you can go to a company. You can go to a refrigeration, sheet metal, or plumbing company. Say, I have my G2 license. Now I want to be an apprentice. Will you hire me? At least that makes you marketable. The companies can hire you and start you into your apprenticeship program. Apprenticeship program. Who was talking about it? Was it Katie? You said you went from the 313D and transferred into the 313A.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Literally just the other week.
It's a difficult transformation, right? When they were making it into, when they were splitting the trade up into a residential and a commercial license, I wasn't a fan of that. But apparently it works for some people. I haven't found many that it does work for yet, but I thought it should have just been one trade all the way along.
Yeah, I'm a bit cynical about why they split them, but I haven't been in the country long enough to have my say, I don't think. So I just get on with it.
I'm sure you have. I've been in here my whole life, and I can, vouch that you can have your say about it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me to split it up into two different licenses. Same as my sheet metal license. It was one license when I got licensed, and then they split it up into two, a residential and a commercial industrial. So when you do your schooling, for you in 313D, like the residential thing, it's 2 terms of schooling. And the first term is the same as the commercial schooling. So you're all in the same school, and then you'll split off into the second term and the third term. The best part about the apprenticeship is your schooling is paid for. You don't have to pay for it. I heard that they brought in a $500 fee. Is that a thing?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
So you have to pay $500?
Yeah, yeah. But one thing that they don't make clear until you're actually signed up to a school and you've said, yeah, I want my seat in school, is all of the things you can claim. Because
Yeah.
I was really worried sick about going on EI because EI is garbage and I've got bills to pay. And I was really worried about that. But when you actually get the forms, there's something I tried to put out there on my Instagram after doing my schooling. Once you get the forms for all the things you can claim, it does add up nicely. It tots up
It does.
nicely. So anyone that's worried about going to school, try not to be. There's a lot of help financially.
There's almost $2,000 in government funding for each term of school that you go to, plus your EI that you get.
Yeah.
And the schooling is free,
Yeah.
other than the $500 you have to pay for it. So if you were to do any other type of a career and you go to college or university, you're paying for that, right? At least in an apprenticeship, it's all covered and it's all free for you.
Katie, sorry, can you put your Instagram in the chat if you don't mind having it open to everyone, or because I'd love to just see some of your posts on that, and your process of doing that. Or if you're able to even email Women in HVAC, like info@womeninhvac.ca.
Okay, so I can put it in the chat now if you want.
Please, yeah, that'd be great, because this is all really great information from like an employer business operating standpoint, for us to have the information, because I think it's really confusing for some of our team members who, are just starting out, or any of our co-op students from high school. So if we have that info at least available, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know a couple of colleagues that I worked with, they kept on saying no to school. They would get the invite and they kept saying no because they've got families, they've got bills to pay, and they felt like they couldn't afford it. But it wasn't common knowledge to me until I said, yeah, okay, I'm going to go to school, and they send you a whole bunch of like forms to fill out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's right on the Skilled Trades Ontario website under financial support. And I think it's a grant incentive, GIC or something, or GCI. There's 2 different grants that you can get. One
So
for
that's
a red seal trade and one
so,
for just a compulsory trade.
sorry, Sam. That's the money afterwards. What I mean is the money during. So money for gas if you're commuting. There's claims you can make to actually stay in accommodation near the school if you live far away.
Oh, really?
Some people, they were they were really restricting themselves on which schools they chose to go to because they felt like they needed to be near home, but they don't necessarily have to be, because there's all kinds of things you can claim for during, like, while you're at school for those 8 weeks, and then when you complete, you can get the grant that you're talking about.
That's changed a lot since I got mine.
Yeah.
You know.
Was there not an announcement that they've canceled those grants? They are no longer giving those grants as of like
March.
end of last year?
March
Okay.
2025, it says it's going to be canceled, but I believe that it'll be reinstated again, but I'm just
Oh.
believing it will be.
Well, I think it's a real shame if they continue to cancel it.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think it would be good to keep those incentives going.
Yeah. It's tough enough when you're working and then you have to stop working to go to school and you've already got bills to pay, because once you start working, you start getting things, families, kids, cars, houses.
Jessica, can I add
Katie,
to
I don't
that?
know if I've heard you. Are you from Ontario, or did you go to school in Ontario, or no?
For HVAC, yes. So I arrived in Canada almost 4 years ago. I went straight to school to get my gas license. And I did a relatively fast track course. It was just less than a year to get my G2, and then started working in the trade. Then got signed up for my apprenticeship the year after that.
Fantastic. And
Can I add something to
thing
that?
the thing
Deborah,
with
can
the
I-
apprenticeship school is that you've got to take it when they offer it to you, because
Deborah,
it's hard to
Can
get
I
in.
add to this? Because I just so you guys know, I'm Diane from the Dirty Seahorse. Jessica's one of our brand ambassadors.
Diane, I met
And
you
Deborah,
at,
you and I actually met at Level
yes,
Up.
yes.
But just so you guys know, I had this conversation with Ontario Skills, okay? Because one of the scenarios that came out was daycare is a huge problem for single mothers, okay? So one of my suggestions was the fact, okay, what happens to a woman when she goes into an apprenticeship? She'll get the funds for the apprenticeship, okay? But then she loses her money to go into daycare. So then they have to drop out. So what I suggested to Ontario Skills was the fact that they should offer these courses part-time to women. That way they can get a babysitter once a week and continue on their apprenticeships. The other way of doing it in the province of Nova Scotia, okay, what they do there is they actually rotate the schools in different areas. So that way all different sectors can go on the apprenticeships.
Wow.
That's the other thing. And the other thing you guys should be aware of too, Deborah, since I last talked to you, if you go onto our new website,
Right.
we're now offering scholarships for women. And what we do
fantastic.
is we will give scholarships towards their workwear when they're in school.
That's fantastic. Your
Yeah.
your stuff is great. Everybody should check it out. The Dirty Seahorse. It's like amazing quality. But my point as well was that, when you have the opportunity to join in on level 1 training or level 2 until they revise it, which they're constantly looking at it. We have a new CEO of Skilled Trades Ontario, and she is very big about women and women in the trades, and they are reevaluating how the apprenticeships run. But until that happens, you have to take it. If they offer you a seat in the training, you have to take it, because the government right now is limiting the number of people that they put in each class and in each year, in each level of training. And that's why sometimes it can take a lot longer than it should. So, you get into it and then work out your funding to get through your life. It will come, as Katie said. You will find that there are lots of things that you can tap into. But anyway, Sam, continue. What were you going to say?
Well, just to continue on that point, Deb, getting your apprenticeship done in 5 years is very difficult. Usually it takes about 7 years before you finally finish off your last schooling term. The school is just not available in Ontario to get in and get done, kind of thing, within that 5 years. So if you can get in, get in. I actually went down once. I was in my 5th year and I was trying to get into intermediate. I went to George Brown College and just sat in the class. I wasn't on the list or anything else. I just went and sat in, and the teacher's like, who are you? And I said, oh, I'm here hoping there's an empty seat. And he said, yeah, no, you're not on my list. Get out of here.
You're a stowaway.
Trying to get in, but I couldn't. My seventh year, I finally got my license, and I did my
Wow.
intermediate and my advanced back to back. On the last day of my advanced, I went and wrote my CFQ. Then all the guys afterwards met me in the bar and said, "What's on the exam, Sam?"
Yeah. And
Question for Deb and Sam. Is there anything that employers can do in regards to grants and funding schooling for apprentices and then get any type of, partial refund from the government?
There is grants available for employers while they have apprentices going, and there's a lot of money available for employers through tax breaks and stuff, right? Just the training dollars and helping people get into apprenticeships, they get tax benefits for that. I'm not 100% sure what they all are, but I know they are available to them.
And if you go to Skilled Trades Ontario, they will help you with that.
Yeah, our rep from Skilled Trades is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll reach out to him and see what he can provide. Or in Natalie, I'm sure you know too. Any of the ladies I can reach out. But yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
There might be other stuff with CRA too. Sorry, Natalie.
No, that's okay. I was just going to mention two things actually. We deal with soy. I don't know, Michelle, if you deal with soy, but it's Support Ontario Youth, but it's sort of a misnomer because it's not just youth. They're helping everybody with any age to get into apprenticeships right now. They help us as the employer to register our staff, which is fantastic. And they also they were telling me that they're bringing back a day release for some schools. I know one of my guys did a apprenticeship at Conestoga, and he went every Friday. So he worked Monday to Thursday full time, and then he would go take Friday off to go to school, which was great. It took a little longer for him to get his work done, but he didn't have to take time off work, which really made a huge difference.
That's
So that's
fantastic.
an option. But yeah, definitely look into Support Ontario Youth if you're either a student or an employer. They're a fantastic organization.
Yeah,
Natalie,
Thanks,
I have-
Natalie.
Natalie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Tools of the Trade incorporated with Soy? So
Yeah.
I joined Tools of the Trade with Sam was there, and I think I went Jess there as well. And I just wondered if that was incorporated with Soy.
I've not heard of Tools of the Trade. I'm not sure what that is.
Sam knows about it.
That's a boot camp that Tools and that Soy runs.
Is that what Soy runs?
Oh,
Is that
okay.
that's
Soy
the
runs
tool?
Tools the Trade boot camp.
Okay, because no one.
Yes, they're boot
no one-
camp. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So one
That's
thing,
where I met you, Dave. You look familiar.
Well, last time we talked, I was grinding your gears about getting sheet metal course going at HiMark. So I was gonna grind you again to see if you had any advancements on that because it's challenging, right? Like as us, we don't have any sheet metal apprentices at our place, so it's very challenging to get anyone under the apprenticeship if we don't have anyone. So
Right.
I'm still waiting.
I was waiting for Dave to speak up. I was like, is Dave gonna ask the question again? Like, we got to get this going.
Yeah,
I would have 2 or 3 people for you if you got a sheet metal course going.
we'd have 5 or 6 at the shop that'd go instantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only real trade. I don't know if I told you guys.
Oh yeah, right at the beginning.
so yeah, so we'll go back into apprenticeships. So a lot of people think that you need to join a union to get your apprenticeship. And as you can see from all these other people that are in apprenticeships and stuff, you do not need to do that. In fact, unions right now, I know the Local 46, I think it is, the plumbers union, they actually don't have any intakes right now, and they haven't in a while. So a lot of them only have intakes like twice a year. And then there are different requirements if you join an apprenticeship through a union or just through your employer. And I think, Sam, you have that information, right?
Yeah, if you want to become a refrigeration air conditioning mechanic through Local 787, then your high schooling needs are different. They require that you have a grade 12 math, English, physics and chemistry for either grade 11 or 12, where non-union is not required. All that's required is your grade 12. Most compulsory trades in Ontario require a grade 12 or equivalency for it.
We don't require that at Brooks Heating and Air. We just,
but
as long as you pass high school, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the unions require something a bit different.
Yes.
Which we've found is a problem because we've had, even my son, when he was in high school, his guidance counselor, he asked him, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to go get my HVAC license. And they said, oh, you can't. You don't have physics. And he goes, well, we own the company, so yeah, I can. Like, and this is a guidance counselor trying to tell kids not to get into the trades because they don't have physics. Physics is a hard course to take.
Yes.
And sciences is not something that a lot of kids get into. You know, you have to kind of take it all through high school to get the grade 12 physics. And that's such a barrier to entry. And when the guidance counselors are giving misinformation, it makes me crazy.
Well, Natalie, one thing was I actually had to go back and take an adult school physics class to be eligible for my George Brown course when I went to George
Really?
Brown.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you working for?
I wasn't working.
I
I was out of high school.
Oh.
I got accepted in, but to get into the gas class there, I had to actually go back to adult school through the summer to actually be accepted into George Brown. But this is going back 19 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully,
The thing is, if I can interject here,
Yeah.
the funny thing is it's TSSA that establishes the curriculum and issues the licenses and the exam, and they only require a grade 10 education.
Yeah.
We've had 16-year-olds get their gas license. So you can be 6. We don't promote that, but we actually have had 16-year-olds come and take the course and get their license. So that grade 12, courses that you have in the college, that's a community college rule. And they're just doing what they want with the course. One of the reasons why HiMark went into business was because the community colleges were making it a little bit more difficult than you needed to get your gas license. They were stretching it out. They were making you take English and math instead of doing the number of hours that TSSA requires. They were making it a lot longer, like 2 or 3 years to get your G2, whereas you really only need 6 months. And our course, we include co-op with it as well. And whereas in community colleges, it's like any other college course. So sometimes it's not always best to go through the colleges. The private schools do it a little bit more streamlined. So.
Well, I ended up leaving George Brown and going to HiMark and doing my
did you?
Yeah, I did not enjoy their curriculum at all. And that's actually when I met Rick and Sam way back in the day. But that's good to know. I did not know that's you can get a gas license at 16. We take on a lot of high school co-ops, and especially young adults that are looking to go into the trades. We've hired, I think, 3 or 4 after they've attended HiMark. But that's good to know that we can steer them sort of in that direction if they are interested earlier than I thought. So
some young kids know exactly what they want to do. I mean, we always promote that you should finish high school. It's just, I think it's a necessary thing, but you don't have to.
If you're going to go into refrigeration air conditioning, you should learn to love physics and chemistry. It's all physics and chemistry. I've taught a lot of air conditioning, even though I'm a sheet metal guy, but I've taught a lot of refrigeration and air conditioning, and I've learned to love physics and chemistry.
You really, really need those math skills.
I was just going to say that. I said, look at Jess's Instagram. Some of those sheets she puts on there. I'm like, holy moly.
Psychometric chart on there, right? Or an enthalpy chart. Yeah, you got to love them. It's fun.
And I just wanted to say too about the colleges, a lot of college kids that I've gotten, they finish the whole course, and a lot of times they do like a HVAC course, which is refrigeration and heating, which doesn't do anything for the refrigeration side. It's
No.
I don't know, it's almost like fake. And then they come to me and they don't have a TSSA license. And I'm like, what? Why didn't you write your exam? It's not part of the schooling. Like they do, whereas like not to plug HiMark, because I think there's a lot of HiMark people here, but HiMark, you guys make sure that they leave with a license. They come and work for me for a week, and then they go to school for a week, and then what they learn in school, they come and use at my place. We teach them on the tools. They go back to school for a week. They know what they're doing. Like I love my HiMark. I'm on my third HiMark person. Rick, by the way, bring me. I need a new one.
Love to hear it.
Thomas is almost done. So
Yeah, I mean, I thank you. We are sort of hosting it. I am a board member, but I'm also with HiMark, and that's what I know, what we've been doing for the last 30 years. And so we've run into a lot of situations where people come along and they're like, oh, I need to do this. And it's like, where did you get that information? Like, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is giving the proper information. Everybody is going to follow the route or the path that they want, but they need to know what's true and what's not true. And, like a pre-apprenticeship course, great. It's not going to get you a job, not going to get you an apprenticeship. And some people think that that's going to be the way. And the same with, like SOI is great, Support Ontario Youth. They actually will sign people up as an apprentice and give them their first level of education. But we were at Level Up, and I had people coming up to me that did that, and they still hadn't found an employer. So they were still struggling. So the main thing here is that if you want to do an apprenticeship, you've really got to connect with companies in your area and try to find a job. Right? I mean, Dave, you and Natalie, I'm sure you both appreciate it when somebody approaches you and says, I want to do this and I want to work for you, like the initiative behind that. So
Jess was mentioning that everything is very different in BC as far as refrigeration apprenticeship. Do you want to maybe explain that a little bit? Because is there anyone on the call that's not from Ontario besides Jess?
I think everybody here is from Ontario.
Oh, okay.
That's so interesting to me. It's very heavy in Ontario.
What's the difference though?
So I think it's really cool that you can get some kind of qualification within 6 months. That's really cool. For us, we only get our gas license at the same time as our red seal. So it takes us like 5 to 6 years to even get that gas qualification. But then we can work on units up to roughly 400,000 BTUs. But technically we can't really do that unsupervised until we've finished our red seal. So that's really interesting to me. What else?
I know in Ontario, the red seal, we've been trying to get the gas license to be an apprenticeship as well as red seal.
Yeah.
And I've basically been told that they are going to turn the taps off gas. So why spend the money or the time to...
Well, the problem is with apprenticeships, you can serve only one apprenticeship at a time.
Right. Yeah.
So can you imagine you have someone, you want them to get their gas license. It takes them 3 to 5 years to get their gas license. Then you want them to have their AC license. It's another 3 to 5 years for them to get that. So you're going to have somebody who's not fully licensed when we have an aging population that you're going to be waiting 10 years for them to be fully licensed. If they can get their gas in 6 months, leave it with TSSA, leave it with where it's working, and then they can take an apprenticeship on something else, you're going to build your workforce so much faster.
Well, when I finish writing my red seal exam in 2.5 weeks' time, I will come out with both a refrigeration red seal and a gas ticket.
Right.
So I don't have to do another.
And how long have you been doing it for, Jess?
5 years.
Right.
Jess, is the gas ticket an apprenticeship?
Yes.
Well, it's not separate, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure if plumbers can go and take their gas license, and if it's a different thing? Because I know a lot of plumbers are out there doing heat pumps and stuff like that, and I feel like they really should be refrigeration people.
And one thing as well, have you heard of the Labor Mobility Act in Ontario? Well, in Canada. So basically you can get your gas license in Ontario and it's transferable to
Oh,
See,
You
and
you
I
just
only
have to write a qualifying thing. I think it's mainly codes. And Sam, you can, or Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you can get your gas license in 6 months in Ontario and
crazy.
then go to BC if you want to live in BC. Although Ontario is the best province. I'm sorry, I have to say that.
West Coast is West Coast. Sorry.
the only thing I would worry about though with the TS, so I like the idea of an apprenticeship just because it kind of controls the quality of education a little bit better. There's a lot of schools out there that are giving, a gas license after 6 months. They're not like HiMark where they're on the tools and learning. They're just coming out with a ticket and then they come work for me. And I think they're licensed. I send them in a house and then they don't even cap a gas line. It's dangerous. I think they need to either do a co-op, make them all a co-op where they're working as well as schooling, or make it a little more in depth than just 6 months because gas is dangerous.
Or only hire HiMark students.
Or just yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know what? I mean, that is a standard that has to be policed, whether it's an apprenticeship or not.
Yes.
You need somebody who is policing that period.
Now, if you've been
anybody-
through an apprenticeship and the training that you receive at the colleges, it's yeah. I can't say anything bad about them, but it's hard to say good stuff about them all as well too. Some of it was great. I had one great instructor when I did my apprenticeship for basic. My intermediate and advanced were. That's all I can say.
The thing is that you know, with an apprenticeship or with the, getting your license in 6 months, it's still, you're going to get some people out there, no matter what you teach them, they're not going to be any good. Right. And even with the people that we put through the co-op and get licensed, we tell them, you cannot really be on your own. You need to have like a year or two working with other people to gain experience before, you should feel like you can start your own business or anything like that. So,
Deb, can I just jump in quickly about that?
course.
About the Labor Mobility Act. To come to Ontario, the requirements are very simple. 55 question exam, and they classify it as a non-material exam, which means it's 55 questions on the acts and regs, which is a few hundred pages, but it's an open book licensing exam. It's just about Ontario acts and regs. Your codes, our codes, it's the same code book. It's just different adoption for each province. And coming to Ontario, you write the questions, you write the thing on that 55 questions. Very simple, very easy, nothing else to do.
Is it the same vice
yes.
versa, or you don't know?
I was just going to say, Callie, I imagine,
Sorry.
yes, that the reverse is most likely the same. I don't know what the requirements are coming into BC or Alberta. Because Alberta and BC tickets are very similar. Gas Fitter B is equivalent to the Ontario Gas Technician 2. So 55 questions coming to Ontario, no problems.
Well, I would hope that I would have to write the TSBC, the Technical Safety BC exam, which is like 120 questions and not easy at all.
We'll have to look into that one, Jess. But yeah, there are it's interesting that you can travel from province to province with a TSSA license.
I thought you could only travel from province to province with your red seal. That I didn't know that gas licenses transferred.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Good to know.
It is.
We have lots of students that graduate from us here in HiMark in Toronto and end up in BC the next week and start working.
But then again, for me to get my gas ticket in BC, it takes me 5 years. It doesn't take me 6 months and then I can leave. Like I have to
But
do
that's
my
part of
entire
another
apprenticeship.
apprenticeship, Jess. Your gas ticket in BC is part of another apprenticeship. You're
Yeah.
serving refrigeration and your gas. The
Yeah.
plumbers are serving their plumbing and their gas. So it's only a small portion of that 5 years that you're doing. It's not really a separate apprenticeship, kind of, right? It's only a small portion of what you're
And
doing.
then still, if we move from BC, from Ontario to BC with just a gas license, and you
Yep.
want to do refrigeration, which is sort of the way, with heat pumps and everything, it's the way of the future, you're going to still have to do your refrigeration in BC,
Yes.
Right.
right? So,
But you already have your gas license. You're still going to have to do the apprenticeship for that.
Well, my gas license, so I've written the gas exam about 5 weeks ago. That exam that I've passed is contingent on me passing my red seal. So if I don't pass my IP exam, then the gas exam that I've written and passed goes away, and I have to do that again.
Oh,
now,
wow.
are you talking about just commercial or residential as well?
It's everything. It's not separated
Okay.
here. in
It's not
BC.
separated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're installing residential heat pumps, you have to learn about absorption, refrigeration, and cooling towers and
Yeah.
whatever else.
So I'm just reading the website for Labor Mobility Skilled Trades BC. And they recognize certificates issued by jurisdictional authorities in other Canadian provinces or territories. Recognition applies to individuals who are certified and in good standing in their trade with the appropriate provincial or territorial authority. These individuals have the same rights and obligations to practice the same occupation in all Canadian provinces and territories without significant additional training, experience, examinations, or assessment of qualifications, and without meeting a residency requirement. So basically, that's what the Labor Mobility Act is that you are recognized for what you have in every province. So TSSA license is an Ontario license, but it's recognized everywhere.
What is the 313D? Because there's only
The
4
313D?
provinces.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, you really have to investigate whichever
Yeah.
province that you want to move to, because they all have different rules. But making the gas an apprenticeship, it really, like, to do it because you think you're going to have better quality training or whatever. I mean, it really works with what we have here right now. So why would you change that? And not all provinces have it as an apprenticeship, and not all provinces are exactly the same. And we have a skilled trade shortage across the country. So it's for me, I think it's great that you can actually get a license, start working, and then sign up as an apprentice in one of the other trades that are associated with HVAC. Maybe you don't want to work in refrigeration. Maybe you want to be a plumber and a gas technician, which we have one working for us. And, he's happy there. He doesn't want to touch refrigeration or air conditioning. Everybody has a different path that they can go. And I think it's kind of good that there's a bit of a separation there. Now, I know, Jess, you said that you can do them both, like plumbing and gas, and you can do that. But sometimes people get their gas license here, they start working, and in their heads, they're thinking, oh, I want to do plumbing. And then they start doing it and they don't like it. And they switch, right? Like they switch from a 313D to a 313A. It gives you the opportunity to get started in the trade, and then you can see where you want to go from there. But basically, it's up to you. If you don't want to do gas at all and you only want to do refrigeration, then you just get an apprenticeship and don't get your gas license, right?
It's hard to find employers though that would only hire especially in the D in the residential situation. We always tell people, get your gas license first, because you need to be able to put in furnaces. That's our bread and butter. And then the air conditioners. There's a lot of gas fitters out there that are putting in air conditioners.
Yeah,
Unlicensed air conditioners. It's crazy, and there's people that own companies. They own their own business and they're only a gas license and they're selling air conditioners all day long. So it's very unregulated, or not, it's not, no one's checking licenses.
Right. So Hannah just asked, I didn't take physics in high school, but I'm interested in taking a refrigeration course in the coming years. Are there resources for learning the physics, math, science similar to a GED? Yeah, they're out there. But I mean, if you're getting signed up as an apprentice and going through just an employer and not a union, I'm not sure that you're going to need to take it to be an apprentice. I don't think so. But there are lots of courses out there if you want to brush up on your physics, if you think that it's going to be necessary.
I would highly recommend to brush up.
Yeah. I mean, there's even free online online courses that you can take. When my son was in school, I found this online program, and it was like a game, and it would give you questions and you'd answer them and everything else. There's lots of stuff. There's lots of resources out there. I would say the biggest thing is get signed up as an apprentice. Start working. Start earning your hours towards your apprenticeship, and the schooling will come, and then you can, as Jess said, you can, get some tutoring or brush up on your physics once you get to that point. But the main thing is I think a lot of people that look at getting into the trades, they're adults, they have responsibilities, they need to get their life going, So those are, I think that's basically it.
I have to dip out. I just wanted to say this was a really good chat, and it was good seeing you all. I do have one more point to make. I don't think anyone here is an immigrant apart from me. But for those of you who come into contact with people that have just come into Canada and want to sign up for an apprenticeship, Skilled Trades Ontario will want to see an equivalence. So it is worth reaching out. There's lots of organizations online that will get your equivalent certificate for you, so that Skilled Trades understands the level you did your education in another country compared to a Canadian school. That's really important for anyone who did their education in another country.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for joining us. We're running out of time, and I think that the Zoom may end in 2 minutes. So I want to thank everyone for attending our very first roundtable. I think it went okay. And we're going to be scheduling one for February. It will be posted online. The next one is going to be open to members only, I think. I hope that you will attend, and this one, the recording will be available and sent out to members. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Deb. Well done.
Thanks,
Sam.
You can email me. I'll put that in the chat right now. Sam has shared his email address, but here's my email address. If you need, if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, if we missed anything, or afterwards you think about something, please email us. We'd be more than happy to help you or direct you to where you can find the information.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone didn't see the chat, Michelle and I are both hiring. We can battle it out.
Fantastic.
2 different geographical areas, you're
Yeah,
fine.
totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, look us up. And both of us have information too. So if anyone wants more additional information.
Yeah, we're all here to help each other and support each other. So
yeah.
Fantastic.
Well
Thank
done,
you very
everyone.
much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Right.